I'm Nick Clark. This is the Firms Podcast. And I want our story to be told, man, because I think through this, and I just believe, like, man, God give you a testimony to share. It's not meant for you to keep it in. And no one can judge you because they got their own issues. And a lot of times when you hear stuff, man, you be like, wow, that brother going through that too. He just like me. Man, you know what? He made it through it. Dang, I can do it too. My name is Nick Clark. This is the Firms Podcast. The Firm stands for Fathers Inspired, Restored, and Motivated. Because I want to help fathers. I want to help fathers be better men in their families, better men in the community, just better as a whole. I'm going to try to be a vessel or an advocate for fathers, definitely putting us in a better place and encouraging us to be better. Man, I'm the son of Marvin and Jackie. My mom had me, she was a sophomore in college actually, I believe. So the first 2 years of my life, I lived with my grandfather. This man, honestly, man, was probably one of the most important, powerful people in my life. My grandfather was a hard-working individual. As a kid, seeing my grandfather wake up at 5 a.m., go to work till about 7 or 8 p.m. that night. And just watching him and never seeing him complain really motivated me. He wasn't a saint, man. I mean, my grandfather had his own issues. He did, like all of us. He stood fast on being a man. And I say issues because my grandfather has 2 kids from women outside of my grandmother that he had. But he has his oldest child was outside and his youngest child was outside. But my grandfather made sure that he was an active father in all of his kids' lives. He never let one of his decisions, kind of change his dynamic or just change, I guess, his perspective on being a father. He knew that was important. And my mistakes that I've made in my marriage does not affect me as a man or as a father. So he knew that role was extremely important. And I think with my grandfather, it was so many times, man, that I just was in awe of him. And I can just share a memory with you. I can remember, man, being a kid, we would just be eating when we would go spend summers with my grandfather. He would just be smiling. And I remember one time saying, hey, granddad, what you smiling for? Like, what's going on? What's funny? He was like, grandboy, that was always his saying, grandboy, I just love watching y'all eat. And to me, man, that was powerful because my grandfather was a sharecropper. So a lot of the food that we ate, man, that was food that he grew from his hands. So being able just to do something for your family, man, and you can see your hard work, your sweat, your tears, your pain, whatever it may be, and you see this crop grow and seeing your family being able to eat off this crop, that's powerful, man. So it just made me want to be a better father too. Me and my mother, she graduated from college, we ended up moving with my father. So my father at the time, he had dropped out of college to work because he wanted to provide for his family. Because my dad, when he grew up, man, he grew up without his father there. So I think when my father had us, or me and my brother, he wanted to be a better father to us because he knew, hey man, my dad really wasn't an active dad because to my understanding, my father's mother passed when they were young. So his dad ended up shipping the kids down south to live with their relatives because at that time, I don't think his father was in a place where he knew how to raise kids. So it's like, let me just give them to someone who's better equipped to do this than I am. So my father was raised by his grandparents. So I think when he became a father, he wanted to be better because he just wanted something different for his life. My parents, man, the first 5 or 6 years, it was really cool. It was dope, man. We had a cool family environment. I mean, it was me, my brother, my mom, and my dad. And somewhat through the journey, man, I think my father kind of lost his way. Sometimes, man, friends influence you and you have to be very strong because there's a lot of temptations in this world. And my dad fell victim to one of the many temptations. Being young definitely had a lot to do with it. My father was raised in a small town. And I think when you move to a larger town and you definitely see a lot more things, my father actually had a great job, man, making great money. I think you're exposed to a lot more. So it's like women, hanging out, partying. So sometimes we tend to lose focus. And he ended up making a bad decision, which caused my mother to file for divorce. It bothered me because even though you made a bad decision, I felt like my father penalized us. Because I felt like, man, when they got a divorce, he divorced us too. And that was kind of the hardest part because we're your kids. My advice to my father would have been, me speaking as a 39-year-old man to my father, hey man, just hang in there. Because through life, your kids will grow and you'll have conversations where you can talk to them about a lot of things that you've done. So it may be, hey, you know what, I did do this, but I'm a great dad. So I don't define him by what him and my mother went through because that's a category, that marriage is a category. Him being a father to us, that's a different category. But I think when the marriage didn't work, it was like, hey man, I'm done with it all. I'm done with everything. And he really tried to be a father, but it wasn't consistent. And I think my dad thought being a great dad to us, man, was hey, let me pick you up, let me buy you a pair of Jordans. And we go spend some weekends with him, but it wasn't consistent and it wasn't often. So I think when he didn't come around or didn't spend a lot of time with us, it kind of it hurt, but yet and still it motivated me because I felt like I knew the type of dad I didn't want to be. And by no means am I saying in this to take shots at my father. I'm just kind of telling you my story and how I felt about what happened. And I wanted to be something different. Come hell or high water, I'm going to be here for my kids. And when I talk to fathers, they ask me for advice, and I say, the best rule I can always give you is, your presence alone speaks volumes. That makes that child feel comfortable. And they know, hey, this is my rock. They're always going to be there. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Nick Clark. Welcome to the Ferns Podcast, the first episode. This episode will talk about the impact of my grandfather and my father on my life. Today I'm kind of switching roles. So I'm serving as, I guess, the interviewee instead of the interviewer. So I had the pleasure of having a dear friend interview me, man. This is probably one of my friends for years. Someone who I've been able to call on in times of need, and just kind of someone I can talk to whenever I'm going through something. But I got the pleasure of having Mr. Charles Peterson sit here with me today.
What's going on, everybody?
Mr. Peterson, so what did you think about that episode?
Listen, man, that was a dope episode. I enjoyed hearing your story, but as I'm thinking about it, I'm wondering, right, because so many people are dealing with, especially young guys are dealing with, the pressures of how do I be a good father? I don't necessarily have the money. I heard you touch on your dad and the possibility of him just picking you up and spend money. But what do you say to the young guy who wants to be a great father, but that money is kind of the obstacle that they see in their role as fatherhood?
Man, my thing when I talk to dads is I've never let money stop you from being a dad. I just think money is a small, I'm not gonna say a small barrier, but it's a small barrier, because I think our impact and us being just good men, that will stand the test of time as more than money. So I don't think you ever stop because of financial reasons. Doing the little things, just make sure you show up, hey, to take them to school, to take them to the park, to be at sporting events, just make sure your presence is there. Because again, man, presence can't be purchased. I mean, I can give you money all day, but I can't give you my time. Time is probably one of the most powerful things that someone can give you, especially as a father, because you've been given this role of being, I guess, the guardian of somebody, man. God's blessed you with a gift to oversee. And so you need to be able to oversee what he's blessed you with.
That's real, man. And so then I'm thinking too, right? I was raised by my great-grandparents and my great-grandfather, and I found out later on that the way my grandmother responded was because of some things my grandfather had done, right? He was a young, attractive guy, fresh out of the military, whatever the case may be. So I'm just being real with you. And so to the person who's having challenges with their spouse, right? And they're still trying to be a great parent, but now that those two people have hit a hurdle, do you think sometimes it may be a better decision for the sake of the children that two people separate and be at peace than be together and feud, right, for the sake of being able to raise the children? Now, I admire your grandfather being able to stay and do his role, but what about those people who just can't work it out and they're just making it miserable for the child? What do we say to those people?
If you're going to make it miserable, well, the child has to be the priority first and foremost, right? I'm going to say, because I think you have to identify what is the main reason we're here. Right. Your investment is this child. You want to get the best return on your investment. So if we can't work as a couple, there's no need for us to damage this child because we can't work and we're two adults. We can still be great parents and not be together. Man, because I think within that, a lot of cats believe that we have to be together to be great parents. But I'm going to tell you something crazy, and you might laugh when I even say this. Man, you got a lot of deadbeats who live in the house with their kids. And that's the sad thing. You got a cat where he's really like, they're married, he doesn't do anything with his kids, he's a deadbeat in the house. So just because you're in there does not make you a great father. I mean, that's about your acts and your actions and the things you do, man. Being there does not make you a great father. Because even though I can look back at my grandmother, I think that was just that old school marriage, man. When you got married, bro, you just did not get a divorce. You know what I'm saying? That was like frowned upon. It's like, hey, man, I don't care what happened. Y'all stay married, and now things have just changed a lot. So with my mother and father, when they got a divorce, I think that was just that was in the best interest of the children, man. In their best interest to be great parents to the children. Because I would never, even now, I wouldn't tell my mother, hey, you got to stay in that just because. No, because if you're not happy, how can you really be good to your kids? Because you're not happy and you're not in a place to where you can be a great parent because you're dealing with your issues as it relates to that. So I can't really say that, man. But I think My dad wanted the marriage when they were married because he had never saw family. And I think my dad just genuinely made a mistake that cost him a lot, you know, and my mom just couldn't rock with it, man. You know, she just couldn't.
Man. And so in hearing the challenges possibly that took place, especially in episode 1 of the podcast, if there was something you could tell fathers just about being present, not giving up, if you looked into the camera, somebody right there on the edge of just break it, they don't know what they're going to do. They don't know how they're going to make it. They don't really know what the next steps are. Nobody showed them how to be a great father, but they possibly had an absent father. What do you say to that young man, that father that's trying to hang in there?
Well, with me, man, I think if you're struggling, because honestly, we all hit that road. We hit it as men just in general, not even just being a father, but since we're talking about the father, now I just say, hang in there, man. Just really hang in there, and I'm gonna be honest, just like even quote Nip, man, like it's a marathon. The marathon continues. This is not a sprint. This race, you're gonna get tired. I mean, some days, hell, you're gonna want to give up because it's a lot. But you have to keep praying, man, and honestly just keep looking at that child, and that child has to be here. So you really have to have the endurance of this race, man, just to keep running. And when you get down, hey, just find a way to pick yourself up. But even like with this whole podcast we're doing, man, we're just trying to find ways to, you know, to serve as like a brother's, I'm gonna say Gatorade during this race. Like, hey man, get your drink and get back in there, man. You got this.
That's right.
You know, so because so many times as brothers too, we carry so much damn weight on us, man. And we can't, and that's not good. We got to find a way to say, hey man, I'm dealing with this, I need some help. And me, man, you know, I mess with rap real tough. So Common has a line saying, when I'm being weak is when I'm being weak is really when I'm being strong.
Yeah.
And that's one of my mottos in life. Like, bro, as a man, you have to find a way to say, hey man, I'm dealing with something. I need some help. HR, can you help me? Like even sometimes me and you would just chop it up just on some man stuff. Like, hey bro, how you deal with this? Cause I'd be a damn fool to sacrifice my family because of my damn pride. I'd be a fool. You know, so I have to humble myself to say, hey man, I'm dealing with a rough situation. You got any thoughts about this? Cause I don't know what you've been through. And then even like, and it's funny cause one of me and my partner was talking about it, matter of fact, yesterday, just about how a closed mouth doesn't get fed. Cause sometimes Charles may be, or Nick may be here, I'm looking for a job or something. You may be hiring. And I'm so proud, but I don't want to say, man, I lost my job. I missed an opportunity instead of me saying, Charles, you know anybody who hiring, man? And you may say, dang, Nick, I'm hiring. I'm looking for somebody. What skills you got? And I got those skills you need.
Right.
So it's a perfect fit, man. But, you know, we just got to keep running, man. This ain't, and this race ain't for the weak at all. This race ain't for the weak, man. Like, I know you a father, like, so what, even like with you, I know we talked about your father, man, how you met your dad, because then we talk about dads and impacts of dads, man. So what was that like, man?
Man, listen, so born and raised in Atlanta, man. I actually met my biological father in the dairy aisle of a local grocery store. Wow. That sounds insane and crazy, right? But I'm walking down this aisle, my mom, guy walks up and says, hey, Monica, that's my mom's name. Shout out to Mom Dukes. And so the guy says, hey, Monica, my mom says, hey, Mark, Charles, that's your daddy. Wow. Man, like flabbergasted. I'm knocked to the floor immediately in that moment. But at this point, I'm 14 to 15 years old. I had all of the questions. I wanted to know the why. You know, that episode of The Fresh Prince, it rings with me because I wanted to know why. Like, what happened? What was going on? But at the end of the day, I had already dealt with that part of it. And so when he came to met me, when I met him originally, it was just anger. It was rage immediately. Like, you lived in Atlanta? Like, what was the issue?
So did you ever get a chance to have a conversation with him?
You know, we did. In the beginning, I was the Barry, right? I'm old enough, grown enough now to say that it was me. I had no interest in, you know what I mean? Because I was a young kid. I was coming into 15 to 16. I thought I knew. I didn't need him at this point. That's how I thought anyway. And so then later on down the line, probably after I had my first kid, I was about 25 years old, we had a conversation. And it was just more along the lines of, I could understand. I had empathy for the situation now that I was a father. Now that I had to deal with the mother of my child, even though we were in a great space, I could understand slightly what may have been the barrier that kept him away from me. I still can't grasp with the whole idea of it, because I don't see that being me. However, I just learned to, accept people for where they are.
Yeah, and you have to, man. And I think, even like you say, accept them for where they are and just truly understanding that, that ain't what I would have done. And sometimes the blessing of is maybe what he did maybe helped you be a better father. Because I noticed how, like, with me and my father, it's like, my dad was a good dad. It's just some things he didn't give me that I needed. So with my kids, I try to be everything that I wanted him to be. You know what I'm saying? Because I think, again, man, my dad would have to tell me himself, man, he had no intention of being a good father. Because I don't believe it. I think my dad did. I think my dad just lost his way. And when he lost that family, bro, it was like, that was that rock. That was the stability that kept you sane. And when you lost that, it was like, okay, what do I do now? You know, and I think he just kind of went on into his life, man, and kind of felt like, okay, well, if I pick my boys up and I take them to the mall, buy them a couple of shoes, you know, I'm good. Yeah. You know, and as you get older, you like, man, that don't even really matter, bro. Like, where's the time we went to the park? Where's the time we went swimming or something? You know, something, just those small memories of things, again, like we talked about with money, the things you can't buy. Right. Those are the memories that last. Those Jordans, over time, you're going to outgrow them. They become outdated. You don't wear them anymore, whatever it may be. But that memory of being in the park, playing or doing something like that sticks in your brain forever, man. Right. You know, and so that's it. And that's why I even tell him, me being 39, my father had an affair. That's how it even happened with the divorce. And so I can understand how that happened, because sometimes even as men, we make bad judgments, or even as people, we make bad judgments, but that doesn't define who we are. Again, that's a category of your life. That marriage was, I made a mistake in that, but I can still be a great father. That has nothing to do with that. And then, even like what I told him, like, just hanging in there to understand, like, man, my boy's gonna understand, like, life happens. Because as you, like how you just said, you got older, you got empathy for your father, like, okay, Dad, I can see this, or I can see that. So you look from a different lens now, because life does happen, and it changes, man. I mean, it changes you, and it changes a lot of things. But again, I would look at it like it's a blessing, man. It was a blessing in disguise.
Man, I could definitely agree with that, because to that same point, man, one of the things that I really had to thank my father for is the one thing I made my mind up as a father is that to the best of my ability, I would be there every night when they went to sleep. Yeah. If I couldn't control nothing else, I would be present. And so they would know every single day, like, no matter what, Dad was there. If it was school event, field trip, you know what I mean, just volunteer events, whatever I could do to be there to the best of my ability, I knew I was going to be there. And it's because of his absence that I made that one commitment. Everything else has been built around that. Okay, so as things progress in my life, I'll be able to do more, you know, financially or in the physical and the present, and have opportunities to go places and do things or buy stuff. But like you said, that was the insignificant. To me, the number one commitment I made to myself was just to be there. And so I give him, I show gratitude to him for that fact.
Yeah, and see, me, I never, even through this time here, man, like, some people are bitter with their parents or their fathers. I never was bitter with mine. I just felt like, again, he just didn't know. Because too, brother, man, we have a lot of cats, they've dealt with a generational absence of their fathers. Yeah. Like, I don't think my dad's dad was there. So it's like, what is that link ever, or that chain ever, who's gonna break this cycle? Yeah. And so that was my role. I'm like, okay, I have to break this cycle, man, because somebody's got to do it. And so that was my thing, like, man, you know what? I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm gonna show up to this job in the sense of being a parent every day and give you everything I got. Right. And what I don't know, I'm just gonna keep trying. And I felt like over time, I'll get this. Right. You know, but again, some days it's hard as hell. But the reward, man, is like crazy, man. Just see your kids, you know what I'm saying, and see the sacrifices, and just see like them happy, man, and them good, you know. Thanks. So I know you understand kind of that, man, and what it's like to be their father and definitely be a provider, man.
Gotcha.
But you know, it's kind of a lot, man. A lot. So what do you think? Let me ask you this question. What do you think has been, I guess, do you think you've been different if your father's been?
As it relates to, do I think I'd be a different man, if my dad was in my life? I'm gonna say no, only because I had so many great males to step up in my life, right? And I don't want to discredit their efforts and what they did. So it was my biological father that wasn't there, but then my stepfather was present, and he taught me certain lessons. I had great uncles that were there that taught me certain lessons. My great grandfather was by far the most pivotal influence in my life, simply because, man, he was a man of very few words. He didn't say much. Nothing really made him angry. Like it was told in our family, the kind of the joke was, if you got a whooping from him, or if you got in trouble for him, like, you had to be the worst kid possible, man, right? That's just how even keel he was. Yeah. And so I'm grateful for those men, man. So I think I'd be probably just about in the same place, right? And so to you, man, and as we come to the close of this episode, man, I just want to know, Nick, where are you today as it relates to your relationship with your father and how it impacted you, and even how it's transitioning to you in your role as father?
Man, you know what? Man, I think the impact, I'm gonna say my grandfather first. My grandfather impact, he made me a fighter. It made me want to just hang in there regardless of what happens and whatever cards life deals to you. But the thing about him, you know, old school men like we were talking about, they never told you I love you or anything like that. They just kind of like, hey, I put food on the table. That's my way of telling you I love you. So I took that to say, I always tell my kids, I love you. I don't care how many times I don't care if we leave each other for 10 seconds, it's gonna be, hey, I love you. They probably hear me tell them I love them at least 5 to 10 times a day. Yeah. Because I want them to know without a shadow of a doubt, amen, I love you. I want you to hear that. As it relates to my father, man, we're trying. We're trying. I think we tried originally when I went to college. That didn't work out too well. We tried to rebuild the relationship. Mm-hmm. But I take my father for who he is, man. We talk a few times a year. It's not as often as I would like, but we talk. I know my father's old school man of few words, you know, but he tries, man. Probably maybe a few years ago, a little bit at, well, excuse me, not a few years ago, because I've been out of college a while. While I was in college, my mother ended up getting married again. So when she got married, I was blessed, man, with I don't like the word, I don't always say step, I just say bonus, because he was a great addition to my life. She married my pops, man. She married my pops, and he's been very instrumental in my life. I think I needed him more than he needed me. That's right. And I say that because I think I met him, I was about 22, maybe 21, 22 years old. So coming into manhood. But he's been there for me, man, every step of this way, bro. I'm talking about from just since the day my kids were born. I mean, comes to my house even still to this day, fix everything, man, I need. I know he hates that, but when he comes in town for the weekend, I'm already at Home Depot with a big tab trying to say, hey, we need to get this done. But he does it, man. He does it with a smile. And he's just been a great dude, man. He's been a great dude. Doesn't have any kids. He took us in as we were his own, and just never treated us any different, man. So I'm good, man. I'm good, and I think as a father, he's really helped me. But my dad has helped me, and my grandfather. So those three men have definitely molded my life tremendously, man. But bro, I thank you again just for taking the time, man, to sit down with me on this first one, man. And hey, hopefully you guys enjoy. Part 2, we'll look at becoming a father. I'm Nick Clark. This is the Firms Podcast.